And h is going to equal that's from that part right there. Thanks. The opposite of b over 2 times a. So the b's and a's are going to come from the formula. Opposite of b over 2 times a. We're going to come back and use this. So k, if h is the x value of the vertex, k is going to be the y value. And if it's the y value, that means it's also the minimum or the maximum. So this is how this is written. F of, what does that mean? K equals f of the opposite of b over 2a. That f is function notation. And what number will we put into the function? Okay, you can also think of it like this. F of h. Or just say, plug in the x value. So if you want to find the y value of your vertex, you just take your x value, plug it into your equation, and work it out. The y value equals the value of the function at the x value. Okay? Okay, let's see if we can transfer this to a little bit of... So on your graph, we're going to go f of x equals, we'll start simple, x squared minus 5. And everybody's getting different graphs. Sorry about that. That one. This one, just right up here. Yeah. That should be it. There you go. Thank you. Okay. We won't really need straight edges or rulers because they're curved. Yep. Okay, so first thing, what is A, B, and C in this case? Okay, so let's look. All of these will be in standard form, I believe, for the most part. So here's standard form. It's ax squared bx plus c. So a is the number in front of the x squared. So what number is in front of the x squared here?
1.
Thank you, 1. Okay, there's a 1 there. So a is 1. This one, next one might be a little trickier. What is the value of b? Okay, is there an x? No. Correct. So it is 0. That should have been trickier than the 1. The c is the -5, the constant. The c is also always the y-intercept, just so you know. Okay. A is always the number in front of the x squared. B is always in front of the x. So the next thing we're going to do, we have to find the vertex. Logan, Eddie, about 5 seconds for being separated. Hate to cause a divorce, but I'm going to do it. Okay. So we're going to find the h value, and that is the opposite of b over 2 times a. If you're using your calculator, make sure you put parentheses around the 2 times a. And we're going to use the numbers that we just wrote down. Okay? So that's going to be the opposite of b. What's the b? 0. So what's the opposite of 0? Gotcha. Over 2 times a, which is 1. But you have a 0 on top, so you have 0 over 2, which is 0. 0. That's not undefined. 0 on the bottom is undefined. Okay. So opposite of b over 2 times a. You work that out, we get a 0. So our h value is 0. This is also going to be our axis of symmetry. Okay, just so you know, you just found your axis of symmetry as well. So we'd say x equals 0 for the axis of symmetry. So if it's x equals 0, is that a vertical or horizontal line? Vertical. Vertical. Okay, so for our k value, we're going to plug in 0 and we're going to evaluate. That is, we're going to find what is f of 0. So what is 0 squared minus 5? What's 0 squared? Minus 5. So what's my k value? Negative 5. Negative 5. So you're going to square the 0 and then minus 5 after that. So that gives us a vertex of 0, negative 5 that we can put on our graph. So in this case, as I say, our y-intercept would be negative 5, and our axis of symmetry always goes through the, this would be the one time you can use a straight edge, is drawing the axis of symmetry, always goes through the vertex. Okay. From here, the rest of the graph, the book is going to ask you to make a table of values. And you have to keep plugging in these things. And some of these kind of get long. I have another way. It's a little bit easier. Okay. We're going to go off of this vertex, and we're just going to use the quadratic term. So use just the quadratic term. Before we go on, what direction should our graph be going, up or down? Okay. That is dependent on the a. A is a positive 1, so graph is going up. You get to advanced math, you get to do parabolas that go left and right also. Good times. Exciting. Okay, so use just a quadratic term. So we're just going to use f of x equals, or let's put it y equals x squared. We're just going to use that. Okay. So from my vertex, if I go 1 unit over, how many units did I move over? 1. That's an x value, right? So if I go 1 unit over, what's 1 squared? So if I go 1 unit over, guess how many I go up? 1. So 1 unit over, I plug that number in, 1 squared is 1, I go up that many. You return to the vertex, always go back to the vertex. Now I'm going to go 2 units over. What's 2 squared? So if I go 2 units over, I go how many up? Is this a constant rate of change? It shouldn't be. Because I went up 1, over 1, up 1, I went over 2, up 4. return to your vertex. Never go back to the point you just put. You always go back to the vertex. 3 units over, 3 squared is? So from your vertex, 3 to the right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 up. You kind of see half of the parabola taking shape here? Four squared is 16. Now, one thing you can do is here, this was at 9, correct? If I go over one more, I can just keep counting. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. What is that vertical line in the middle? What do we call that? Symmetry, right? So guess what? If you have a point over 1, up 1 on this side, guess what you have to have on this side? So you just copy those points over. So you don't have to go, okay, 1 to the left and count up. You can just copy these points over. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then do your best to draw a nice curve. It's going to get steeper as you go up. Try to make it look like a parabola, not a V. That's kind of the hard thing when you're learning. They end up making V's a little bit. But congratulations, you just drew your first parabola.
Yeah.
You feel so grown up.
You have to count like from the point. Like the 16s are from there, no? First of all, in the 4.
4 over 16 up.
You count from there.
Well, you can go from here. If you go from here, you're going to go 1 over, and you're at 9. So now you're just going to keep counting 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You can do that. But you have to remember, this is at 9. Don't go 16 from here. Go 16 from here. Okay. Let's do that one. So f of x equals negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 3. Let's do a full one. This will be the last one. Have you try to graph these in for tomorrow. Hey, stranger. Okay, so first thing, write down your A, B, and C. Nope. A, B, and C are just the numbers. So the question was, do you write down the letters, the variables with your A, B, and C? And that correct answer is no. Okay. So A, B, and C, what's A? B? C? What's going to be the y-intercept? Negative 3.
So on your next step, so it's just the top part negative, or is the entire fraction?
Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay. So after this, find the h value. H is the x value of the vertex. So this is where you're using this formula, opposite of b over 2a.